Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being here again. I am really thrilled. I have Marius with me. Hi, Marius.
Hey Greg, hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Marius. It's a great pleasure to have you with me. We met once at a big webcast together with Pisano, and then we stayed in contact. And now I have really a big opportunity to have you on my show, the CX Goalkeeper. Thank you very much for being here. As usual, I ask the guest to present himself because it's easier that you explain what you did instead that I read through a long list. Marius, could you please share with us what you are doing, what is your passion?
Definitely. Greg, first of all, I'm a customer of many brands that learns from my own experiences and use them in my day to job if you want so. I'm passionate about traveling, and my goal is to travel all the countries in the world. Well, I've been only half to them yet, but still have some time. But I make the most of my cultural experiences to build consumer strategies that supports global products and services. I've been for many years in telco industry. I moved to financial services, and now I'm in consumer goods. And I'm passionate about innovation, building future consumer strategies, and helping businesses basically to be more consumer centric. I've been with Vodafone. I've been with Liberty Global. I am now with an amazing company with Philip Morris. I have a bit of consulting experience with KPMG, and as I mentioned, also some financial services experience with RSA in the UK.
Thank you very much for the introduction. And we can see also behind you the nice picture about the countries and all the books. But we will come a bit later discussing about your hobbies. I think you are here, and I am really happy to have you on this show because you are really global experience with global companies around customer experience. And today I would like to discuss with you one topic that is really relevant for each company, and nowadays even more as we are doing a big going through a big issue with COVID-19. And this is about companies are organized a bit more like based on the products. It's product centric, and we know that we will have a shift. We are going to have a shift to a customer centric organization. Perhaps let's start with my sentence: from product led to customer centric organization. What's your view on that?
Well, I think that in a way it's normal that everyone to be focused on sales and the revenue, because at the end of the day, that's why the businesses are. This is what they are fighting for, right? There are different ways of on fighting into these directions. And as you said, the most common probably is the product-led option. When you know what is your product, you know the strategy, you know what you need to do in order to increase the sales and to make this a mass product. But I think the problem appears when actually the consumer doesn't resonate that much with what we are offering, because your focus is in the wrong direction. And one of my great passion is about looking into the consumer needs through the lenses of jobs to be done. And I think that many of the companies, when they are building their strategies, are forgetting about the consumer at the core of things they are doing. But moving back to your question with the difference between product-led and consumer-led, I will give you actually an example. If you have in mind any project probably that you worked on, and the same for me, you start from a good set of insights, consumer insights, data, a lot of relevant information, outside trends and so on, and you build everything around the consumer needs and all these aspects that the consumer will expect from a product or service. But then when you progress in the design stage, you still keep that in mind. But then the stage of the development, you start having all these technical challenges, I don't know, if you want legacy problems, if you want budget restrictions, all these kind of elements. And this is the moment where most of the companies and most of the project teams don't go back to the insights part and to say, okay, what do I need to cut out of my project, but still to be consumer focused, to still be led by those insights that actually started the design of this project, service, process, whatever you want. So the main problem for this one is because the non-facing, non-consumer-facing employees are not understanding that well what consumers are saying, what the needs are. If you are thinking, we live our experiences with the front line, and if you ask someone in customer care or someone in retail, they will talk about their consumers for hours if you want so. If you ask someone in, I don't know, the marketing team, or if you ask someone in finance, legal, whatever team you want to consider, they will talk about consumers through the lenses of their roles. I mean, I don't know, customer segmentation in marketing, they will start talking which is the right segment to approach for each product and so on. But this is just theory, it's not the reality. So what I think is needed, other than looking and keeping all the time an eye on consumer insight and data, what is needed is to bring the consumer at the same table with everyone in the business. And many years ago, actually not a few, I think like 10 years ago, I started a project in Vodafone where all the employees in the company had to literally meet consumers in different ways, listening to the real-time calls or going to shops or discussing with consumers. And this impacted very much the way they approached things, because many times at the project table, you are discussing with different many functions, right? And customer experience sometimes is that that cool team, that great persons that are just talking about, I don't know, ideal things, ideal journeys, but they are not talking all the time about sales maybe, or not at the same, with the same weight like someone in I don't know, commercial team. So for me, these are the two things that will help a company to look into the right direction. And then, of course, there is the focus that needs to come from the top of the company, and from the CEO to the board team, and all the managers actually at the end needs to be ambassadors and promoters of the consumer through the lenses of their own jobs.
And I think this is great. Two topics came to my mind. One of them is what you mentioned, and this is a bit the old-fashioned way of doing things. It was one of the top managers saying, I know this guy is selling this technology, try to implement that, and then you start defining everything through the technology and not really based on the customer needs. And also linked on what you said, and I really liked the example that you did on the project with Vodafone, employees speaking with customer, because this is, I think, a cultural topic. How to change the culture in a company, how to drive that, the understanding that at the end, the consumer, the customer, you name it, will buy the product that you are defining. How do you see the cultural change in the companies, how is progressing, and also linked to what you mentioned, to the leaders that we have today and that we need then in future? I know it's a long question. Let's split that and start about speaking about culture.
It's a long one, but with a simple answer, if you want. So, because the strategy and the vision of a company guides the entire organization, right? And if you set the correct direction, and if you set the right starting point for everything in your organization, will give you at least the start into building the correct approach. Then, of course, there are a lot of other elements, but I feel that in my experience, again, if you don't have a clear long-term strategy, you risk on the way to lose the direction that you want to take. And then, of course, it's important to make sure that you have not only the strategy and the direction, but you need to always keep an eye on what is happening inside and outside your organization, and not only outside your organization in the same industry, but what is happening in the environment, the business environment, and what are the trends, what is actually happening out there. Because many times we are thinking, okay, this is what we are selling, or this is what we are offering to our consumers. This is what we've done for years. Let's improve this. While the question is the improvement needed, or is actually the next phase of the things you are offering to be improved and changed? And I mean, if you're thinking Amazon, and I know that there are a few examples that probably everyone is using, but on Amazon, many times you are going out to buy something there just because it's one-click shop, is nothing you need to do. So basically think about, if you'll have to add all the time your address, your card details, all these kind of elements, you'll be like, you know what, I'm maybe lazy today. But if it's just finding something you like, add it to the basket, and that's all, it's kind of easy. So it's a big element of how you see the future, how you focus your strategy on long term and changing the norms, and also how you put a bit of education, if you want, to your customers, because it's not only reacting to what your consumers is asking you for, it's also what you want them to do. At the end of the day, you don't know what you don't know. If I will ask you now, and I think that our friend James gave this example, if I will ask a kid now what they want to eat, they will say chocolate or whatever, but we know that we need to educate them, because that's not exactly what they should eat. So they will enjoy vegetables as well if you put some effort. So it's kind of like, what do you need, but how do I educate you towards what I want you to do, right? So it's very important. It's the same with Amazon. I mean, I know that I go there to buy, I don't know, from time to time, that product, but then if everything is easy and I'm educated in a direction that things can be so much easier, I will search first time for everything on Amazon, and then I will go outside that platform. But again, maybe it's just my behavior, but it is the easiness that matters very much.
And I think what you're saying might make fully sense, because at the end, I agree with you. And you used the example of children willing to eat chocolate and so on, but they should eat vegetables. But also with the children, we see exactly the same behavior that we have as a consumers. My son doesn't really like to eat vegetables, but he's seeing older children eating them, and then perhaps one say, it's good, please try, and then he tries. If I would do that as the father of him, no, I don't want. But if the older consumer then try these vegetables, then he would also try, and now he's eating tomatoes and other stuff. And I think this is what you are saying. Try to find out the behaviors and try to steer them, to understand them, to educate them. And this is extremely important. On the other side, also what you mentioned, we are using always the same example. It's Amazon, it's Ritz-Carlton and so on. Yes, but if they are the best, let's speak
exactly. Yeah.
And
you moved a bit into the voice of the consumer and the word of mouth, and how consumers actually are relying on other consumers' experiences, and that's another good way of capturing the data and the insights from consumers to build your strategy and to build your long-term plans. So as you said, is the power of example is the something again that can help us to shape the future of customer experience, if you want. So, and actually I have even a business example with educating consumers. If you remember, and I'm sure that in Switzerland was the same, like 10 years ago probably, all the price plans in telco were about minutes. The more off-net and non-net minutes you had, the coolest that price plan used to be. But then we started with Vodafone to give data and to focus on data rather on minutes. And then things started to shape a bit and to get more importance, because everything moved into the data directions. I think about WhatsApp and everything. And the minutes started to not have the same importance. But it was a piece of education that the consumer had to receive, because the more you use, the more you understand that is what you need. But if you have asked like 10 years ago, what do you prefer, unlimited minutes or unlimited data? probably 80% of the consumers would have said, give me minutes. Now I think that I even don't use my minutes on my price plan. I'm mostly using data, WhatsApp, and all these video call options like Zoom now and so on. So it's kind of understanding the future and to take the opportunity and to build on that.
And I think this is the key. We were speaking also before this discussion about who are the leaders of the future and which skills they need. Perhaps what's your view on the required skills? Because you spoke about taking a decision and completely changing from minutes to data, but somebody at the end said, I take the decision, I take the risk. And what's your view on that?
First of all, I think it's important to always look, as I mentioned, outside your industry, because the trends are not happening always related to your activity. The trends are out there and they are just waiting to be used and to the companies to make the most of that. So for me, it's important to keep an open eye and an open mind around what is happening and what are the mega trends happening out there. But then it's more about how you guide your direction, your strategy, your perception about the future. But on top of this, there are some elements that I think sometimes we tend to be afraid to make the most of that. And I'm thinking here, empowerment of people, delegation. We hire experts in our teams, in our businesses, but many times we are happy to have those experts, but we are a bit maybe concerned to onboard all those new ideas. And at the end of the day, sometimes that's why we brought those people in. And that's why I think is the beauty of merging and mixing people from an industry to another, because they come with different expertise, they come with different knowledge, with different experiences, and the know-how grow in this way for each company. So I think it's important for a leader to understand the power of empowerment, the power of delegation, the power of motivating people, you know. And also I think that diversity of an organization builds a lot around the innovation and creative ideas. Because if you are thinking, the more diverse you have a group of people, the more ideas and the more exposure to different cultural elements they will bring to the table. So then you start building on top of that. So I don't think that if you are looking at future of the future focused leaders versus, let's say, basic leaders, maybe sounds ridiculous, but is not requiring for different skills, requires a bit more openness to these skills and to put more value in and balancing different, probably the skills that are needed. And also for me, one of the other things that is very important is if you want to be a bit more strategic rather than tactical. And obviously with COVID now and the uncertainty of everything that happened in the last few years with Brexit, Trump, and everything around this, many companies started to look into tactical and quick wins solutions. But this brings you value tomorrow, but on long term is not probably the best approach. So I feel like, again, is a need of balancing between short-term wins or quick wins and strategic view and strategic plans.
And you mentioned quite a lot of skills that are required, because as you were saying, we are in a really in big troubles, everything changing, consumer behaviors, everything needs to happen quicker and so on. Perhaps do you have some example that you would like to share with us of leaders that are showing these skills, these traits that you are mentioning? And we're not speaking about you and me, let's speak about others.
Well, you know, when we're talking about examples, I mean, the easiest way you can look into those companies that are doing, that are their best at this moment. And again, as I mentioned, Amazon, because it was so well prepared. And even if it's not well prepared, when the pandemic started, they looked into a strategic approach and how they can actually win in this situation. And it's the same with telco companies. They put so much focus on improving the quality of data and to create more options and more price plans, or more, a better quality on the coverage and so on. But I will go actually back a few years. I will go a few years back, and I will think in some of the roles I had in telecom. And I remember a few years ago, I was talking about the future of connectivity and how the connectivity should look in 5 years from that moment. And I think that this actually helps the businesses to react to uncertain moments, because you never know what will happen around the corner, right? So you need to be prepared, and you need to have, as I said, a short-term plan where you have the wins next day, but also the long-term that actually will help you and support you to be a leader in the market in your industry, to think differently, to find solutions and find alternatives to the current products and services that are out there on the market. I don't know if it answered your question, but is very important to look more than on what you are doing, but what actually you can do different and on top of what you are doing. And probably is not the best example, but if you are looking in the industry that I work now, there are so many alternatives, and people are trying to find better alternatives. So you need to innovate. You always need to create new products, to look into what you can, how you can better improve the consumer's life, but also how you can still, react to what are the needs out there.
From my point of view, it was really a good answer, and therefore also building on what you are saying. From your point of view and also from your experience, how is it possible to develop such skills? Because I mean, what you're saying is we are speaking about creativity, about long-term vision plans with short-term goals, and the shareholders that are waiting for results in the next 3 months and not in the next 20 years. How is it possible to develop these skills?
Well, I think that developing of these skills is probably something that sits more on a training side, or in a coaching direction, rather than what sits on my expertise. But my suggestion from my own experience and expertise is that leaders needs to be open to experts, needs to understand and to accept opinions, and to rely on actually those opinions and suggestions and recommendation. Everyone in their field, no matter if you are talking about finance or customer experience or whatever you want, you have your own experience, you have your own expertise, you know your things, you know what you need to do in order to make results happening, right? So then it's important to have at the table the right people, but to have also the openness to understand and to accept that you don't need to come with a solution. You need to accept some suggestion. Many times I feel that in general, again, we tend as human to put out there our ideas. We feel that if we don't come out there with our solution, with our direction, with our recommendation, we are not good enough. Well, for me, at a certain level, it's not about those people or us telling those direction, but it's about understanding from others, taking all those good elements, mix them, and then turn that into something that leads to the future. So I think it's about being open rather than being, I don't know, creating yourself those solutions. And I think that this is one of the challenge. We all tend to give solution rather than build solutions together.
I think this is an extremely important quality. I phrase that a bit differently, but it's exactly the same what you are saying, is the ability to listen to the people and to try to understand, to really understand what they are saying, instead of always pushing my own opinion. And what you're saying, I think this is really the key success factor. It's not I am the expert, I decide everything, but I have the expert from the different topics, from the different fields. They can speak together, and then together we can achieve something, because it's not anymore binary 1 or 0, but there are quite a lot of options and opportunities.
And Greg, at the end of the day, we're all consumers, right? I mean, no matter your role, you experience every day different experience, different journeys, pain points, problems. So all this, at the end of the day, feeds into designing something, a project, a product, no matter what. The only difference is that probably as a CX expert, we can look and we can deep dive in a different way into those problems, while a consumer will just understand the problem, but probably will not be their role to find the solution. And here is actually where the balance and where the customer experience teams in general and experts will bring a lot of value.
And I fully agree. And now it's time to learn a bit more about you, Marius. And therefore, my question is the following. It's a busy time. You worked everywhere on the global, with big companies, with smaller companies. Now we are in lockdown. Some countries are still in lockdown. Some are going into the lockdown. How can you ensure to maintain a satisfactory life-work balance?
Well, I'm based in London, so we've been in lockdown since December. So we are still being challenged here with a lot of restrictions. In my honesty, I think that is already the new normal. I don't even see the restrictions anymore, because after a year, as we speak, I think March was when the problem started last year. After a year, you just feel like this is the new normal. So I think what is important is to have fun in everything you're doing, at job, in your personal life. Go out, do exercise, restricted as it is everything, but it's important to have fun. It's important to try to rely on things that you have access to. I mean, in my honesty, before the lockdown, I never watched a series because I don't like to stay in front of the TV. Now Netflix is my biggest friend. So, you know, it's fine. It's about finding those elements that gives you joy and keeps you, you know, sane in a way, and helps you going through these months of restricted activities. But honestly, now that summer is around the corner, or spring at least, the sun is shining, is a better vibe than it was a few months ago. But you need to keep having fun, no matter if you are talking about work or personal life. And one thing that I will suggest to everyone, and I always say this to my team, and I always do this myself: 9 to 5 or 9 to 6, or how long is your daily work program, stay into that brackets, and then outside that time, do not read emails, do not work, do not do things, because you need to have that separation between work and personal life. Other way, everything becomes one thing, and you don't have the fun and the joy anymore. But again, it's my view.
And I share a lot of what you're saying, because you need to have fun on what you're doing, because we don't know how long is our life, and we should enjoy that. Therefore,
yes, definitely.
I fully agree with what you're saying. You suggested something to the audience. Perhaps the next suggestion is there a book that you would like to suggest to the audience, that you say this is a nice book that I'm reading, or something that you rather say this is really important?
I will not suggest a book, but I'm very excited to read the CX3 book that will come, I think, on the 26th. I'm very excited about that, but I will suggest a destination. So once that all this pandemic will come to an end and we'll be able to travel again, I will recommend everyone to travel to and to visit Ethiopia. It's such an amazing country with such a great culture, and visiting those tribes that are many hundreds of years old, gives so much energy and power, and helps you to see the life through different lenses and through different angles. And I think that that is a very it was very impactful for me to travel to Ethiopia and to meet those tribes. So that would be my recommendation for everyone watching this webcast.
Very nice. Thank you very much. And a different view. I really like that. If somebody from the audience would contact you, how is the best way to contact you?
I think the easiest one is LinkedIn. Happy to receive any questions or suggestion, or just get in touch. Send me a friend request or whatever on LinkedIn is the best way.
Thank you very much, Marius. And the really last question, and this is the question, the gold nugget question, is something that you would like to share with the audience? Is something new or something that we discuss? This is Marius' gold nugget.
Everything starts with the consumer. So no matter what you are doing, no matter your role, no matter if you are a consumer or a business, everything starts with the consumer. You need to understand this. At the end of the day, everything rest is just building on this. But for me, what is important is that everyone, no matter the role, to understand that consumer is the core, everything we are working for.
Thank you very much, Marius. And as usual, I'm not commenting your gold nuggets because it's Marius' gold nuggets. Thank you very much for your time, Marius.
Greg, thank you for having me, and I really appreciate your invitation. Thanks again.
Thank you, and also to the audience, thank you very much for being here, listening to this podcast, watching this podcast. Speak to you soon. Bye bye. Arrivederci. Grazie mille.